Okay. All right, I've got some questions that out for myself in advance. And I check the time. Let's see. Aha, there she is. You must be Dr. Peeler?
Hi.
Hi, I'm Dennis Jers. Thanks so much for agreeing to meet me.
It's fine.
So great. Okay, so you've got this office here. Okay, sorry, I just said that. Oh, I love the skull. Tell me about that. What is that?
That's just a pirate flag.
Just a pirate flag?
You know, that
Okay.
a fan sent.
Ah, all right. Okay, great. Well, thanks again so much for agreeing to meet with me.
No problem.
So again, I'm going to be talking to you about your role in the book discussion. You're the chair of the committee, right?
Yes.
Okay, and okay. So, what should students expect of this book discussion?
Well, we wanted to do something a little different this year and really include the sciences. I think obviously when you're picking a book, it's really easy to come up with something fiction or nonfiction. We had a graphic novel, young adult book. But this time we really wanted to make sure that we're doing something to interest not only the scientists, but people who might not think of themselves as science-minded with something that was popular science. So that was really our, one of the reasons we really, and I also just think that this book has a lot to say to a lot of very different people.
Okay, okay. Okay, I'm going to get back to that a little bit about what the book has to say, but can you tell me a little bit about how the book was selected?
Well, we always have a big passel of books, and as a faculty, we had to read Brain Rolls last year for something else, and we were really impressed. I was really impressed with the speaker. We actually had John Medina come and speak, and he was really impressive.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed the book, and I'm not a scientist, but I really enjoyed the book, and I thought it was really well read, and a lot of other people on the committee echoed that, and so it kept coming up as we went through different books. And one of the things that we really wanted to do this year was think through how we choose books, and one of our criteria, amongst others, was this idea of, making sure all the different faculty and students over time get something for them, I guess you could say. And so again, we really liked the idea of sort of playing to the sciences and kind of introducing science as something that everyone might actually be interested in under the right format.
Okay. And I noticed in your background, you've been at Seton Hill since 2010, right? Mm-hmm. And your background is in literature, and you're a published novelist. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I wonder, what was it like being a literature person and someone who writes a novel to be on a committee that ended up choosing not to assign a novel? I mean, were there like factions involved? I mean, what's the thinking going into picking a nonfiction, a science book, mm-hmm. to a community where not everybody is a scientist?
Right. Well, I think we're all appreciative of different genres and different kinds of literature. We're all readers, period. So it wasn't a big leap for us to want to read this well-written, interesting book that was the kind of science that obviously applies to us. I mean, it's talking about all of our brains and how we work. I thought as educators, and other people in the committee echoed this, as educators it's interesting because it talks about educating. As students it's interesting because it talks about how we learn. So it wasn't a big stretch. And obviously we read quite a bit of fiction this year. And I think that's another thing.
We, you mean the committee members? Okay. About how many books did you read?
We had quite, on our long list, I think we had 12, and then it got shortened down to like 4, mm-hmm. and then to the 1. Okay. So we did a lot of reading, and we're very cognizant that even though each student body coming in fresh has, they're just going to read this one book, but the faculty and the staff, we read these every year. So we're cognizant that even though the students aren't necessarily aware that we've been doing this every year, because they'd only do it the once, that we don't want to talk about the same things over and over and over, and the same issues. And again, we're not just all made up of humanities faculty. We're certainly not just made up of English Lit faculty.
Okay. Who else is on the committee?
Quite a few different people from all over the university. So we have people from science, dance, we have librarians, every.
Okay. Could you get names of a couple of them that I could contact?
Yeah, Susan Eichenberger. Oh my God, I'm having such a Stefan Zubal, David Stanger, Judith Kovaleski. Although we're getting a new librarian this year.
Okay.
They kind of cycle through. Lord.
Could I just email you and you could send me that? Okay, I'll send you a follow-up and ask you. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
I should know, but it's been a long day.
Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And are there any students on the committee?
No, we've had students before, but not this semester. And we might get one for the the year, but not this year.
Okay. How do you get on the committee?
Normally people just come up to me and they say they want to be on it. And I like to keep it a little smaller than I know it's been in the past, just because otherwise it does end up just becoming, but I like this kind of book. And I think we've got a nice amount of people where we have enough varied interest without it
How many on the committee now?
I think there's 9.
9, okay.
So it's a lot of varied interest, but it's not unmanageable.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And what were the other books on the short list?
Well, The Book Thief, which is definitely a strong contender for this year as well. It's one of my favorite novels. There's always a book about a dog. And I can't remember the name of the book about the dog this year. There was a young adult science fiction book, the name of which I can't remember. But it was like a dystopian, futuristic novel about cryogenic freezing across the universe. That's it. Trying to think of what else. There was a bunch of others that I can't remember. They kind of, once they get dismissed, they kind of get shuffled.
Okay. Now I noticed there's a discussion list that goes around, and I was looking at some discussion lists from past years. I didn't remember the questions being separated according to division. Is that a new thing now?
That's a new thing.
Okay, so my question is, if the book is supposed to be like a common shared experience, what's the thinking behind dividing people up according to majors and giving them division-specific questions when one of the stated aims of the book discussion is to bring the whole community together? What's the thinking about that?
Well, we're not actually the ones who divided everyone the way they're divided. So I guess that's precedence. I know it's been going on since I started at this school. And I, to be honest, it's not even something we challenged about as whether is that what should be. I mean, I think part of the thinking for the whole day is to make sure that people have met other people from their major.
Okay.
Because I think this is I think as much as this is about reading a book and discussing a book, it's also about community building, and I think that's a really important factor that especially faculty tend to forget. It's not so much about like, here's your first test. Because like, first of all, that's a really good way to alienate the incoming students, and second of all, I think that kind of misses the point, which is that we're trying to foster this idea that, learning is as much about building community as it is anything else, and to kind of start that engine by having this really community building exercise around a book. And so I can see your point that on the one hand, kind of putting people into their majors, and it kind of forces a different kind of community. But these are the people who, they'll see each other in each other's classes and stuff, so it's good they know each other. As to why we did that, if you look closely, you'll see that there's kind of questions for everyone at the very top. And then there's the divisional questions.
Right.
And I think part of it was because I think in the humanities, especially, sorry, my allergies are insane. Especially in the humanities, we're actually tend to be quite prejudiced against science. I think, everyone's used to this idea that everyone should read, and when they say everyone should read, they mean they should read fiction. And we're quite, especially us in the, English majors, obviously everyone should read, good books because they're just good books. And I think a lot of people will wonder, why should I be reading this science text? And so that was one of the things we really wanted to do, was apply the novel to people's majors to really try to bring out, to kind of focus the discussion, I guess.
Okay. So who does divide the people up in groups?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's all done for us. That's like, I mean,
Okay.
when I got that email, that was the first I'd seen.
Okay.
So we get the emails just like you
Okay.
guys do.
Okay. All right.
So.
Okay. Well, then I'll look and see whoever sent that email, and I'll ask that person. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I think those are the kind of logistical things that we couldn't handle as a committee.
okay.
So.
Okay. All right. I'll ask that question to the right people then.
I'm
okay.
sure it's the registrar or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's Barbara Hinkle, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe Pam's office. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Now, having the book discussion follow the welcoming liturgy kind of makes for a long day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? What would you say to a student who decides to bail out after the liturgy and not go to the book discussion?
Well, we do take attendance. I don't know where it ends up, but we do take attendance. To be honest, again, having to cancel class is a big deal, and so there's not really another time. We actually looked at changing the time and changing the format, and we also talked about like using shoe pack, all these other ideas. We really wanted to do something different this year, because we've had increasingly large entering student bodies, and the older way of just kind of having the panel discussion wasn't really working that well last year. It was just too hot, and everyone was crammed in, and people, apparently there was enough seating, but people weren't making use of it or something. I don't know. But it was very uncomfortable, and I just saw a lot of people texting and like not paying attention. So it is a long day, but I mean, we're also adults and we all have long days. And it's going to be a little bit better this year because you have the opening liturgy and then you get to walk to a new place, meet new people, and then instead of doing the sit-down panel, we're going to have a book fair. So you're going to actually be wandering amongst tables. Well, different student clubs and student groups will be teaching you. So like basically your fellow students, just from an older peer group, will be teaching you how to apply the brain rules to your own life. So basically what a student can make of brain rules.
Okay.
So that should help. And there'll be cookies and punch. So.
Okay, and if I wanted more information about the book fair, who would I talk to?
To me.
To you? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, can you tell me more about the book fair?
Yeah. What else besides?
I guess, again, what would somebody expect? I mean, how do people join the book fair?
Well, everyone's going to go.
approach?
It's the book fair is in lieu of the panel discussion. So just like in past years, after everyone's had their breakout group discussions, they get led to Sicilian, and that's going to stay the same. Only instead of filing in and taking a seat and watching something, you're going to be kind of mingling around different tables, and there'll be information for the different student clubs as well. So if you have read this and you think it's amazing that stress affects us so much, well then Jamie Steele's going to be there showing you some yoga moves, and she'll tell you when she teaches her yoga class. So stuff like that. So you'll be able to actually integrate hopefully some of these brain rolls. Okay.
So where did the idea to replace the panel discussion with a book fair come from?
Well, that just came out of our committee meetings. We knew we had all these different ideas. I mean, obviously we'd love to bring John Medina in again, but he's super expensive and we couldn't afford it. So we just toyed around with a lot of ideas, and I think it might have been Dr. Eichenberger's idea to do the fair. I can't remember exactly whose idea it was now. Okay. But as soon as someone said that, we were like, oh, that's brilliant, because it makes better use of the space. People will be coming and going rather than just all trying to pack in at once. And again, it's kind of what he talks about, like there'll be movement involved, lots of different things to keep your attention. So it was kind of playing with the idea of the brain rolls as well.
Okay, good. Now, what is your opinion of the decision to make this year's book an ebook? Who made that decision, and was the availability of the book on electronics? I mean, did you consider books that were not electronic books?
Well, partially it was just cost. So the bookstore donates the books, and it's a very expensive physical book, and it was just cheaper on ebook. But I think it also fits. I mean, we want students to, they've got these iPads, and some students are super familiar with this technology, and the first thing they do is go to Kindle and download their, textbook or whatever. Other students are less familiar with it, and I think this is a good way of kind of making everybody use their book, their iPad to read. And I know for someone like me who was really against, I was not going to ever be an e-reader, I mean, I love physical books. You can see from all the stacks around here. But as soon as I got my e-reader, I was like thrilled because I realized I didn't have to carry 75 things, and I could travel with 100 books on one little pallet. So hopefully, I mean, so to be honest, it was mostly just cost prohibitive to do the physical book, but then also it fits in well with having the iPads.
Okay. What's the likelihood that next year we might see an iPad app discussion instead of a book discussion or a video discussion or something like that?
We've talked about the video discussion a lot. I would love to do a film.
Or a live performance discussion or something like that.
I mean, it becomes an issue with logistics. And so now, like, before we could say, well, they'll definitely have, like, if we bought a DVD, they'll have a place to show a DVD. And now, like, the new MacBook Pros don't even have...
Well, the MacBook Airs have no DVD slot.
Yeah, the Air has no DVD slot. And so it becomes an issue of, like, for someone like me, I didn't have anything to play a DVD on up until, like, last year. I mean, the technology is so... There's so much technology, but it's also different, and people have such different access to it. That was an issue. And as far as having everyone in one place to watch a live production, that would be another thing that we would have to do over like many days, because then when they would have to think about it to discuss it. And so I think the summer reading is going to remain summer reading just because of logistics.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. My deadline for this, there's a short story a short preview article that's due the Wednesday morning, and then we have a follow-up that's due Friday afterwards. So feel free to respond to any email requests that you get from students, yes or no. In my role-playing as a reporter, what I will do at the end of the interview is tell you what my deadlines are, and that way I can ferret out whether I shouldn't contact you again with follow-up questions or whatever. But it's okay. Slipping back into the reporter role-playing, I'll send you an email asking you for the names of the committee members, and if I have any questions, I'll do so. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this. I'm looking forward to going to the event, and it looks like you put a lot of thought into this, a lot of hard work into it, and the changes seem to be going along very nicely with the Griffin Tech Advantage plans, with the whole plan. So that really looks like it's going nicely. So again, thank you very much for your time, and I'll get you that email soon. Thank you. Okay.